Welcome to Violin Adventures number 192. We're off on a roll here. We're working on our 1800s violin. Okay, we're at our 1800s violin. We're going to take these clamps off and need to fit the fingerboard to the neck here. It's hanging over quite a bit on both sides, so I'm going to blend it. And as soon as that's done, I'll be back with you. We've got to get the upper nut pegs. Pegs will be next, and we'll have to rebush these holes because they're so big. So I've just blended the fingerboard with the neck, and we've got some nice flame here in the neck. The next task is to take this nice chunk of ebony and we're going to cut a special upper nut. So some of you have in the comments have wondered why I don't have a jig for drilling the peg holes. Well, one of the problems with this would be that every scroll has a different angle, and so you've got one more straight and one more angled. So if I were to lay it down or to put it in a jig, it could be off, and I want to be able to keep track of both sides. Also, I'm not just lining it up, but I'm lining it up with perpendicular to the floor or to something in the room, and then also checking on the inside to make sure that it's not leaning back or forward, and then checking this way, and so it's easier to just eye it and make that way you can check all the angles. And I start with a smaller drill piece in order to make adjustments if I need to. And then you can make minor adjustments with this tool. And I still check straight across, backward and forward. Have this all completed, and I'm going to go ahead and set this violin up, and then next week we'll finish working on the varnish. of our 1800s Czech violin. Okay, it's just starting to wake up, but it's got this big, very mellow but big tone. And when I was working on this violin and when I was working on the pegs, the sound box was responding even before the bridge and sound post got on there. So I am going to make a little adjustment and I'll be right back. Alright, just made a little adjustment to play this poor violin. Now remember when it came to us, the lower block wasn't even there. This was all open, and so this violin hasn't been played for a long time. So not only does it have a new bass bar and new bridge and sound post and a little bit of graduation, but it needs to wake up, having not been played for so long. But even still, you can tell there's a beautiful tone lurking in the wood here. So I just love the tone that is coming out. So at the end of the video, we'll play Shalom. Next week, we're going to work on the varnish and get all the touch-up done. And then we'll play it again. And I'm going to try to keep playing it in the next few days to just get it to wake up, because I think there's a gorgeous tone under there. Let's take a peek. The Professor Jasinski is working on setting the neck of his cello. Next comes a glimpse at the emergency repair. It was so fun. So many of you answered what was I doing in that little clip. So here's another one. clamps off of our emergency violin. We're going to take down the cleats and close this up. Well, it's time for another story, and it looks like we're going to put our anecdotes of great musicians aside. We've kind of exhausted the good stories in that book, and now we're moving on to Violins and Violinists by Franz Farga. And we're going to take up reading about the Divine Strad. Stradivari was the greatest craftsman Cremona ever produced. He was also undoubtedly the keeper of secrets which he never handed down to posterity, and most probably the only human soul capable of understanding the miracle of sound which he captured and embodied in his instruments. This genius had a perfect comprehension of the relationship between the vibrations of the wood and the little box which turned them into sound, reinforced and reflected them. He knew how they were influenced by any particular type of wood and its varying thicknesses, by the elastic varnish which tames and ennobles the tone, but above all he was very wise not to analyze his peculiar knowledge or attempt to press it into a formula. Little is known about Stradivari's origin and career. Some historians assert that he was born of a well-to-do Cremonese patrician family like Amati, but there is no proof in support of this theory. There are, however, records of similar sounding names in the archives of Cremona. In the 12th century there lived a judge named Lanfranco Stradivarius, and 100 years later a town councillor called Giovanni Stradivarta. The actual date of his birth is not known, but it has been established that he died in 1737. The question of his birth is still unsettled. It must be assumed that Stradivari was born between 1642 and 1644. And I'm skipping around, leaving out some of the things that aren't as interesting. And we go to the next page. We know nothing about his place of birth and nothing about his childhood, but we do know that at the age of 12 he entered Nicola Amati's workshop as an apprentice. Some historians say that Antonio was Amati's godchild. There is a possibility that this is true. Nicola Amati was not only very rich, but a well-known benefactor who trained many pupils free of charge, and later on, as a journeyman, before they made their masterpieces, according to the rules of the guild, they proved to be very useful to Amati. As he was flooded with orders, he accepted help from these young violin makers, especially in his latter years, when his eyes began to fail and his hands weakened. He did not, of course, accept just any lad as a pupil. The guilds of that time had very strict rules about the selection of apprentices. When a master accepted an apprentice, both had to appear before a notary, where a contract was drawn up stating that the boy had to be scrupulously trained not only in the trade he had chosen, but also in the 3 R's. The master took him into his house as a boarder, and it was therefore quite fair that an apprentice should use his skill once he had acquired it to benefit his master. And we'll stop right there and we'll continue next time. Okay, we have here another violin coming in. This is a lovely violin. I shall really enjoy working on it. So we'll put it in the queue and the third one out. We've got all the parts here. This is wonderful. And we've got 2 bows there, and let's check the bows in here. Yeah, the bows look good. So we'll be working on those too. The Hebrew Minute. Kaveh el Hashem, hazak va'amet, libecha v'kaveh el Hashem. Wait or hope in the Lord. Be of good courage, and he will strengthen your heart. Wait or hope on the Lord. Now this is found in quite a few different verses, so if you know one of them, please leave it in the comments below. Freddie wants to chat. Now Freddie got a special letter from Mrs. Carolyn, and she wants to share something with Freddie.
I'm Freddie, and I got a friend that's just like me. Wow, this is fantastic. I just learned that word, fantastic. Well, I'll show you a picture, but this guy, he looks just like me.
Mrs. Carolyn says her son Andrew learned to make puppets years ago in youth group. This little man came all the way from Germany. Großvater caught Andrew's eye because he reminded him of his own grandfather. Andrew adopted him to entertain the young nieces.
Thank you for sending me a picture of my friend. And, oh, everyone, don't forget to send in pictures for the 200th episode. Bye!
It's a nice hot afternoon. Let's go inside where it's cool. Here we are in the shop. And here's our beautiful 1800s violin, ready to be played. Next week we'll work on touch-up and putting a protective coat in some of the areas, like the end button area needs some protection. And then we'll work on the top area here where we put in the bushing. Just do a little bit of touch-up, and then this fellow will be ready to go home. Next in the lineup, we have a lovely viola waiting to be repaired. We can start on that next week, Lord willing. And here's a special violin that needs some extra care. And here is a lovely old instrument that has some neck problems. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for your thumbs up and all your great comments. We have 7 more episodes before the grand 200th. Thank you to all of you who are sending in pictures and videos. We're setting a cutoff date for any pictures and videos. It will be August 18. So if you have an idea, go ahead and send it. We'll be glad to get it. And if you have any more, please send them in by August 18. And until next time, bye!